Hello, fellow YouTubers. Tonight I'm going to talk about Marvin Gaye. As you may know, tomorrow is the 25th anniversary of his death. Now, I've been a Marvin Gaye fan for a very long time. The very first time I ever heard his music was probably as a little kid, and I didn't even realize who I was listening to. But the first time uh, I ever really understood and knew who I was listening to was after I was after I was a big Sammy Davis Jr. fan. I know I was a weird kid, and so I was looking for someone new to listen to and be fascinated by. So one day I was looking through my father's old LPs, and I found an LP with Marvin Gaye called something like Every Greatest Motown Hit or something like that. Anyway, I remember distinctly the very first song I put on that album was Too Busy Thinking About My Baby. And I heard this song and I'm like, whoa, this is pretty good music. So I decided to listen to the whole album from start to finish. And I was like, wow, this guy's a great singer. Whatever happened to him? So I go up to my father and I ask him, I go, Dad, whatever happened to this Marvin Gaye guy? I never heard of him before and he looks pretty young. And my dad says, well, his father killed him. And I'm like, what? Why would his father kill him? And he said, oh, something about taxes or something. I don't know. So, needless to say, I was very interested. So I went to the local library and I took out a book by David Ritz called Divided Soul. And it's pretty much the definitive biography of Marvin Gaye. And I read this book and I'm like, whoa, this guy, he had a very tortured life, but he was such an amazing guy. I mean, there's one quote in the book where David Ritz is describing Marvin, and the quote is something to the effect of, the voice of an angel trapped in the body of a man. And that is true. Marvin did have the voice of an angel, but he was trapped in flesh. Too much corruption in his, and succumbing to the more baser instincts. So I began buying all kinds of albums and CDs of Marvin Gaye, and I like to think that I know a lot about Marvin. So what exactly was so great about Marvin Gaye? Well, to me, Marvin was an artist with a capital A. I mean, he had this ability to take the worst things in life. I mean, some of the subject matter in his music is pretty downright depressing, but he was able to turn it into something beautiful, something magical. And that is one thing I really love the most about Marvin Gaye. But another thing is that his life something magical. And that is one thing I really love the most about Marvin Gaye. But another thing is that his life was his music, and vice versa. I mean, whatever that was going on in his life, he went to the studio, he sang about it. He had no fears about doing that kind of thing. And so this is just a video, to say, 25 years, been a long time. And we still miss Marvin Gaye. I mean, he would have been 70 years old this year. He would probably be doing this jazz stuff that he always wanted to do. He would have been a very cool cat. I mean, I can imagine a lot of hip-hop guys going to Marvin and saying, hey man, you live such a tough life, with women and drugs and this and that, and he sang about all these great things, and We want to sing like we want to have impact just like you did. And I think Marvin would be very, very hip today. I could see him. You see, Marvin had this thing about uh, wanting to stay in popular culture. However, his artistry oftentimes took him away from that. I mean, if you listen to the Hear My Dear album, that that album was very far away from the popular songs of the day. But it's some of his greatest music. To me, it is also the most depressing album he ever did. I mean, every time I listen to that album, I am totally drained. I mean, you go from the highs and lows. You basically follow everything that happened in his relationship with Anna Gordy and how that marriage ended. So I think he would still be doing that kind of music. He would still be reaching out to the world and staying true to his artistic self. But I could also see him doing some popular stuff, and I could see him doing more things like his vulnerable stuff, singing jazz standards and stuff like that. I could see him doing a duet with Tony Bennett or something like that if he were alive today. So I'm sure I plan to talk a lot more about Marvin in the coming weeks ahead. Um, but for now, I just want to say, Marvin, even though I wasn't alive when you may had the bulk of your success, um, your your music touched my heart and my soul. I mean, I remember the very first time I heard What's Going On. And after listening to that album from start to finish, I was like, it was like, it's like the voice of God. I mean, just speaking out about all the things that's going on in the world. And those things are more relevant today than they were in 1971. So Marvin was very right when he said to Smokey Robinson, "Hey Smoke, this album wasn't done by me. It was done by God." And um, so that's about it for now. And we'll talk more about Marvin Gaye later on.